What is going on, Colts Nation? Welcome back to another episode of Bring the Juice. Guys, I don't exaggerate when I say this. The Indianapolis Colts are in trouble. You're seeing it by the title of this video. This is going to be a serious one because the Indianapolis Colts, they are in trouble and their season could be on the line this week. And that is not an exaggeration. That very well could be the case for this team if they have any chance of not only winning the division, but even potentially making the playoffs still. This next game is that important. I want to get into it, but before we do that, just want to say again, this episode is sponsored by FanDuel. Amazingly enough, the Indianapolis Colts are still somehow the favorite to win the AFC South right now, but it is very, very close. Indianapolis Colts at plus 120, Jacksonville at plus 145. So neck and neck is right here. And Houston at a plus 350. So even they have a slim chance to still do it. But right now, guys, the AFC South is definitely in shambles. And if you want to get in on this chaos, go to FanDuel right now and participate with that. So, guys, look, let's get into this video. It's crazy how wild the last month has been for the Indianapolis Colts. 5 weeks ago, you were sitting at the top of the entire NFL. You had the best record. You were tied for the best record going into the bye week. You were 7-1 before you faced the Steelers. You lost. You were still tied for first in all of the NFL. You win the game against the Atlanta Falcons in Germany. You are 8-2. You are tied for first place in the AFC and go into your bye. And then in the last 2 weeks, you have lost back-to-back close games at the end to not only lose first place in the conference, it has dropped from it's basically nightmarish scenario right now for the Indianapolis Colts. It is not an exaggeration, folks, that the Indianapolis Colts, while they're on the inside looking out, it feels like they have to have reverse psychology. They have to feel like they're on the outside looking in. Once again, how did a team that was through the first 9 games of the year having historical numbers offensively, blowing teams out on epic proportions, even amidst the first 2 games when the slide for the offense started happening, when turnovers were happening, sacks were happening, and yet still it has come crashing down. And now the Indianapolis Colts do not look like they have a grandstanding chance. Because, again, look, you were tied for first in the AFC conference standings and how you were looking at it after week 10. You were 8-2. You were tied with New England and Denver. Denver hadn't had their other game yet. So you were tied for first with Denver and New England for that first seed. But you were technically first because you had the better conference record in that. You have your bye. You lose on the road at Arrowhead. And then that dropped you. And fortunately for you, it kept you at the 3 seed. When your bye happened, you got dropped to the 3 seed because Denver and New England hadn't had their byes yet. So that was the case for that matchup. So, of course, there was that. But you stayed in the 3rd seed after your loss at Arrowhead against Kansas City. It is what it is. But, again, we still continue to see issues where offensively, lack of execution and terrible play calling and game design from your head coach and play caller caused you to not be able to take advantage of situations when it mattered. And then this time, you have a divisional opponent You're back at home for the first time in over a month, and then you drop another one at the end of the game, in which, again, officiating, it was bad in that game. But needless to say, if Indianapolis does not hurt themselves with a missed extra point and plenty of other opportunities where they could have scored points, instead, the Indianapolis Colts drop another one, this time a divisional matchup where Houston is trying to make their approach back into the playoffs. And of course, Jacksonville, now with Jacksonville being tied for us in the record category right now. I don't remember how they're ahead of us in the standings right now. I don't know if it's not conference record. I don't know if it's something within the division rules. I don't know, but either way, Jacksonville has now taken the 3 seed, and Indianapolis is now at the 6 seed, tied with the Chargers, tied with Buffalo for each of the wild card spots. Every single wild card spot at this moment, the team is 8-4. And then Houston is sitting there at 7-5. They're looking for their approach. So in a matter of just over a month, you went from being the first seed in the AFC and even still in the NFL to now being the 6th seed with momentum dropping big time. And obviously the Colts are in trouble because, one, the injuries that are piling up. You have a injury to your starting quarterback, Daniel Jones, with a partial fracture in his fibula. I don't think it's reducing his play as much as some people want to believe it is, but it very much is still an impact on his movement and how he's not able to escape the pocket. He's not able to escape the pocket if the pocket starts collapsing because he can't go side to side. He can go forward and backward, but that's only half the job. So it has impacted him in some way in his performance a little bit. And then, of course, you have injuries to your defensive players. You have an injury to DeForest Buckner, your best defensive lineman. He's been out for the last several games, and his presence has definitely been felt. The lack of pass rush and lack of stopping somebody in the middle. And then, of course, you're about to also lose cornerback Sauce Gardner, who you recently just traded for. And on top of it, he could miss several weeks. Don't know how many weeks that is. It probably will be less than a month. But even still, every game that Sauce Gardner misses is a huge loss for the Indianapolis Colts, because right now he has been the best corner for the Indianapolis Colts since getting here, outside of potentially Kenny Moore. And I mean, that is a big, big loss. So you're missing guys. And then obviously we are starting to have a situation where fans are feeling like the momentum, especially offensively, has just gotten to the point where the offense feels stale. It feels like play calling is not very good situationally right now. Of course, a lot of us feel that at times Jonathan Taylor is not receiving the football at times in which he should be, especially earlier in games. The Colts offensively in the start of games, they're not as good this season at being able to start hot. Their passing offense has been abysmal at the beginning of games, basically for the last month to start games. It has not been good as in comparison to what it was the first 8 weeks. And now, of course, as you saw, now we're in a situation now where you've dropped 3 of your last 4, and you are now hanging on by a thread to keep even in the playoffs. That is how competitive it has been this year for the AFC in trying to get in the playoffs, is that the 3 wildcard teams are all 8-4 now. And now, on top of everything, as I mentioned, the injuries, the slip in performance from the offense and the coaching, and the mistakes that have been made, you're hanging on by a thread in the playoffs and the division race. And the problem you have now is you're tied with the Jacksonville Jaguars in record. Houston, only one game behind both of you. And you just lost to Houston. So the head to head there, definitely not good. You are now about to go to Jacksonville. And for anyone that doesn't know, I think the last time the Indianapolis Colts beat Jacksonville in Jacksonville, it was either 2012 or 2013, I believe. I was in high school the last time that my Colts beat Jacksonville in Jacksonville. All these great Colts teams with Andrew Luck, we never beat them in Jacksonville. Even after Andrew Luck, all these years, we never beat them in Jacksonville. Even in the times when the Colts were clearly the way better team than Jacksonville ever was. We couldn't beat them in Jacksonville. And so we're talking about an almost 15-year-long stretch. Almost 15 years. It's not quite that long, but it's close. It's more than 10, that's for sure. Over a decade-long stretch where you have not beaten this team in this location that you're about to play this weekend. And you're going to have to play them this week with the division on the line. Obviously, there are more games after, and anything can happen. It is the NFL. But folks, Jacksonville's remaining schedule, let's look at this. After the Colts this weekend, they have the Jets at home, likely a win there. Denver on the road. That will be a tough one for them, no doubt. Broncos are still a good team. They will have to be on the road again to face us after Christmas. And then they will have the Titans at home to end their season. So let's just say, for hypothetical reasons, that they beat us this weekend. Let's just say that. I mean, they're going to get at least 2 more wins with the Jets and the Titans. I mean, that's going to finish them with 11 wins. So that means the Colts are going to have, they would practically have to win out in order to do it. They'd have to win out to win the division. If we don't win this game against Jacksonville this upcoming weekend, the Indianapolis Colts would likely have to win out just to have a chance to win the division. Because likely the Jacksonville Jaguars would likely finish with at least 11 wins if they were to beat us this weekend. And of course, the Texans, albeit the Texans have a little bit of a tougher schedule coming up for sure. They have the Chiefs coming up on Sunday Night Football in Arrowhead this next weekend. That will be a tough one. They're going to play the Cardinals. They should win that. They're going to play the Raiders. They should win that. They have to go on the road to play the Chargers. That will be a tough one for them. And then they have to face us to end the year, right? So the Texans, I mean, they're going to have at least 9 wins. No doubt. They're going to at least have 9 wins. They could get 10. They could even get 11. Indianapolis sitting at 8-4. And then obviously we have to face Jacksonville this weekend. We'll have to face the Seattle Seahawks, who are one of the best teams in the National Football League right now. You have to face the San Francisco 49ers, who are also at the same record that you are at right now. And then you have to face Jacksonville and Houston again. And so if you lose this game, then Jacksonville will be 9-4. You will be 8-5. So then Jacksonville will have a 1-game lead over you. And then if you are 8-5, and we look at the schedule this upcoming week, Buffalo and the Chargers do both have a couple of tough tasks The Bills will have to play against the Bengals. We know that the Bills have slipped a little bit recently with a couple of games, and the Chargers will have to face the Eagles. So obviously, tough games for both of them. But best case scenario for you is if you do end up losing, best case scenario for you is if the Chargers and the Bills both lose, and hopefully Houston loses. Best case scenario for you. Best case scenario is if you do lose this weekend, you will remain in sixth place. You will remain in sixth place. So the best scenario that the Colts could have this week if they lose to Jacksonville would be that they would remain in sixth place. That's the best case scenario. Any other part during this, the Indianapolis Colts, if they lose and then all these other teams were to win, let's say Buffalo beats the Bengals on Sunday, then we drop to the 7th seed. If Houston were to win against Kansas City, then we drop out of the playoff picture and we are in the 8th seed. We would be the first team out. So in a span of 6 weeks, we went from the number 1 team in all of football, record-wise, to then being out of the playoff picture, just like that, if the Indianapolis Colts were to lose to Jacksonville. Now, say we win against Jacksonville, then nothing else matters in regards to everything else. We would end up regaining our 3rd seed. So we would then have home field advantage again in the playoff picture as it currently stands. And then Jacksonville would have to compete with all the other teams. I don't know how that would march out. But guys, I mean, this is again a huge week. If we win, not only do we get it back into the 3rd seed in the playoffs, we will have defeated a 13-year-long curse. 13-year-long curse of not winning in that building. Not only are you, obviously going to try to win this game and try to break that streak of having that over your shoulder for so many years, and then, being able to have a chance to get back into that 3rd seed, have still somewhat control of the division still, even though there's still a long, long way for the Indianapolis Colts. But the Colts, they if there was ever a time when the Colts needed a win, it's this week. It very much is this week. Because if you don't, the schedule's not going to get any easier. And the more games that you keep going down to Jacksonville and Houston, it could very much be a situation where, again, the Colts are on the outside looking in and hoping other teams do something that makes it happen for them. So that'll do it for this one, guys. Again, shout out to FanDuel for sponsoring. Let me know what you guys think. Are the Colts in trouble? Do you have any confidence that the Indianapolis Colts can pull this off? But that'll do it for this one. Thank you so much. And as always, go Colts.